The Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) has called on President Bola Tinubu to withdraw the tax reform bill submitted to the National Assembly, citing concerns over their controversial nature and potential negative impact on economic growth, particularly in northern regions. In its New Year message, the NLC stressed the need for an inclusive process that engages key national stakeholders to ensure wider acceptance of any proposed reforms.
Now, alongside the withdrawal of the bills, the NLC is advocating for a comprehensive wage review to address workers' economic challenges and protect their welfare. The union also emphasized strict compliance with the 2024 National Minimum Wage Act, urging all levels of government to adhere to its provisions. And joining us to discuss this further is the Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Lagos State Council, Ismail Adejumo. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year
Same to you.
All Nigerians at home.
And you as well. I think I want to start with the conversation on a wage review. Tell us about this. The president recently, just approved the new national minimum wage, 70,000 naira. I understand that the NLC had asked for more, but seems to have settled for 70. So what wage review are you, referring to again?
Thank you very much. On the issue of the wage review, you know quite all right that before the agreement was signed for 70,000 minimum wage, the labor movement were considering the inflationary rates in the country, the high cost of living, and it has a lot of effects on the living standard of Nigerians and the workers. So it is on that premise that the 3 years review as against the initial 5 years review was considered. But if you look at the current economic reality at the moment, you quite agree that Nigerians are struggling, most especially the working class, to survive. Whatever palliatives, whatever measures that will cushion the effects of this high cost of goods and services, high cost of living, need to be considered by government. And you will recollect vividly that most of the state governors who are agitating that they cannot even afford 60,000 before the president jacked it to 70,000, are now, offering as high as 80,000, 85,000, as the case may be, creating a great disparity, although we know we cannot have uniform minimum wage. But what we advocate for, ab initio, recollect vividly, was a living wage, which Mr. President promised us. Nigerians are living in abject poverty, most especially working class. This is not a living wage, so to say. It's a sort of a starvation wage. So the labor leadership are, considering all measures, palliative measures like the CNG buses the president promised. They should roll it up so that it will reduce the cost of transportation. The food relief as well, it also have a lot. You can see the effect of this struggling for food has really, take so many lives. So we need to do something proactively to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians and the working people.
Mr. Adejumo, what is the Labour Congress? What is the Labour Congress doing differently? Mr. Adejumo, can you hear me?
I'm with you.
What is the Labour Congress doing differently this time? We remember that when the negotiations started, you started from about 615,000 naira, ended at 70,000 naira. Nigerian workers were already in a terrible living condition at the time. And I don't know if much has changed because it's still, of course, very bad. But now you're asking for a review. What is Labour asking for? Do you have a strict framework for what is expected? Do you have a figure that you're working with? And are we expecting the roller coaster that happened last year to repeat itself again in 2025?
Thank you very much. The Minimum Wage Act, as of 2024, signed by Mr. President, is a matter of law. And as at this moment, can never be reviewed because the agreement was premised on 3 years. So we are looking towards 2027. But what we are saying is this: policies of government have effects on the life of citizens, and the working people are not in isolation. So we are the receiving end. It is only the working people that will receive a stagnant wage once it is benchmarked. Other workers in the private sectors, employers, labor, all of them will increase their services in line with the economic reality. Inflation as is moving, what you buy today is not what you are going to buy tomorrow. So all this is really affecting the working people. We are not saying at this moment, 2025, we know is going to be a prosperous year. by the grace of Almighty God, we are going to work closely to ensure that the target is achieved, so that whatever that will be put in place to ameliorate the sovereignty of government in whatever means. So that is our. We break down the 600,000 to different indices: the housing need, the transportation need, the food need, the healthcare need, and so many parameters that constitute that amount. Then people were not listening. They thought maybe the labor leaders are too, the demand is too much. But if you come to terms, reality of purchasing power, inflation has eroded the current 70,000, as we say. So people will receive salary today, within 2 days, it vanished. In fact, before receiving it, a lot of debt is already standing to sweep the so-called wage.
All right. And so if we get you correctly, Mr. Adejumo, if we get you correctly, this advocacy is for 2027, right?
By the grace of God, that is a matter of law.
Okay, so let's now come back.
We are social dialogue. We are social partners with the government. We are partner in progress. We engage with government from time to time to fine-tune and to see. And even though now the national leadership of NLC is planning a national dialogue on this issue of the proposed tax reform bill. So
that's where we want the conversation to head. The NLC has asked for a more inclusive process that would ensure that the NLC co-creates policy making that would benefit Nigerians. So we want to ask you, what is the NLC asking for when we're talking about the tax laws in Nigeria?
It's a constructive social dialogue framework that will be inclusive and robust, that will bring everybody on the table. All the indices, the framework of implementing the tax target needs to have a buy-in of all the critical stakeholders in the regions, in the social framework. Everybody must be involved.
So I guess the question I was trying to ask you is, when you say inclusive, what does that picture look like? Who and who are you referring to, and what will the process look like?
All the social partners. We are talking of the labor movement. We are a critical social partner with the government. We are partner in progress. We need to be part and parcel of these policies from the formulation to the implementation stage, so that we'll be able to canvass the merits to our members, so that they can buy in. Yeah. And also, the
complaint in the country, is the NLC's complaint really? Hold on, Mr. Adejumo. Is the NLC's complaint, and of course the request that the tax reform bill be withdrawn, is that because you don't feel like you've been carried along? Is that simply what the issue is?
Exactly.
Okay, so does the NLC have issues with the tax reform bill itself?
Yes, inclusivity. Yes, that is the position of the the leadership of the labor movement, that we have to be part and parcel, so that the implementation framework will be seamless. We'll be able to canvass it, to cascade the policy down in a manner that everybody will buy into it. And we know it's a good move that will drive the economy progressively, but it has to be, a kind of inclusive approach to it. Everybody must buy into it.
So inclusive means inclusive, because I need to understand exactly. If you're asking that the bill be withdrawn, that is, there has to be legitimate reasons why. So when you say inclusive, are you saying
around it?
Yeah, are you simply requesting? Can you hold on?
Yes.
Are you simply requesting that the Nigerian government calls the NLC into its meetings while they discuss these tax reforms and of course the bills? Is that simply what your request is, or do you have issues with the tax reform bill itself?
Before any bill is passed in National Assembly, there will always be public hearing. There will be a lot of processes of inclusivity. That's what we are saying. It has to be robust, that we carry all the leadership along, and all the tendencies. The Northern Bloc that are against this policy, they need to be educated about it. They need to understand the long run positive effect of it in the economy, to drive the economy. If these are not put in place and the policy is to be implemented, just like the issue of subsidy when we were canvassing then, that it has to be in phases. It's not going to be a goat policy.
All right, Mr.
It will have a
Adejumo,
lot of effect.
if the NLC
if it is going
and
gradually, everybody will be part of
interject at
it
this point,
and will be
please.
able to buy into it, and it will achieve the desired goal.
All right. If the NLC was carried along from the beginning, and we've gotten to this point, would you say that there are areas or sections of these bills that the NLC would probably have amended, or is the NLC comfortable with every section and the grouse is just that we were not carried along?
We need to canvass for understanding. We need to get the buy-in of all critical stakeholders.
Does the NLC understand?
We are aware of the tax reform bill, the content in details. We know
you are okay
some
with
segment
it?
Of the country, some segment of the country which we also represent are not too comfortable about it. We have to be sensitive about the plight of Nigerians.
But I guess what I'm asking is what the NLC's position
is an action.
What's the NLC's position? I guess that's what we're asking. What is the NLC's position? Is the NLC comfortable with the content of these bills?
The position of NLC is in the public domain. It's with you. You have seen it in our press.
No, you're here. It's why we're asking. You're the representative here.
That is still the position. That's our position.
Which is?
This should call for a dialogue. There should be a robust dialogue around it so that everybody will have a buy-in to it. All the section of the country that are against it, they must have understanding of the benefit of the policy. That is just it. After all, it's still with the National Assembly. A lot of process, we pass through a lot of process before it is assented to Mr. President. Before we get to that stage, we must have a robust debate around it. That's why NSC is calling for a national dialogue in Ibadan this month to urgently look into the positive aspect and the other aspect of the law of the bill that will inflict some pains to some segment of the country. That's why they are advocating against it. We have to let everybody have an understanding before we put a policy in place. No. That is why we have the National Assembly to engage everybody robustly, not a kind of quick overnight passage of bill. That's what we are guarding against.
Okay. So again, it's not because you have particular issues with the tax reform bill, and the little details. I have said it earlier on.
It's a progressive move, but it has to be inclusive. It has to be inclusive. Any reform comes with pain. Everybody knows all over the world. A positive progressive reform comes with some pains. And those pains have to be, there must be a measure, to ameliorate, cushion the effect of that pain so that it will not deteriorate and cause a disaffection within the country. Everybody must have understanding of what we have to exercise some sacrifice for, have to exercise patience or some pain for. Like the issue of subsidy. It was a debate that was very robust. Everybody knows that this is a must for the country to survive. But at that very time, we're expecting the government to take it in phases, not at a go. Now they realize that it brings a lot of pain.
To be clear, because we need to go.
The same thing with...
What exactly do you hope to achieve in the summit in Ibadan?
It is to call for, a call for national dialogue. When we call for a national dialogue, we look at the veracity and the general principle of the bill and come up with a recommendation.
But you already know that because you've already mentioned that you think it's a progressive bill. It's not like you're not familiar with the bill.
Collectively, with the section that are aggrieved about it, some section of the country are not in agreement with that policy. Get me right.
The section that are aggrieved...
representing that segment of the country.
Yeah, the section that are aggrieved, are they also going to be in Ibadan?
Everybody, this is a national dialogue now. We said something a national dialogue. We are still asking, that is it. That's why it's called a national dialogue. All tendencies of the segment of the NLC leadership must be there. Both the southern and the northern bloc. Everybody will sit down. We'll look at it together.
Okay.
With a holistic recommendation.
So what happens?
That will be put before.
So what happens if after the national dialogue in Ibadan, everyone isn't able to reach a consensus? What are the next steps?
It's a going concern. We move. That's why we would say the freedom come by struggle. We continue and continue to push. That's why we are a pressure group. We continue to move progressively and engage the government on a general principle of the bill in a way and manner that will bring greater happiness to a greater number. Not to inflict on hardship to some segment of the country or have a kind of impression that the section of the country is going to benefit than the other side. So everybody must be a partner, a social partner. We are social partner, and we must be part and parcel of it.
All right.
Forward.
Ismail Adejumo, thank you for joining us this morning to share Labour's position regarding the tax reform bills. And we, of course, will be waiting to get feedback from the consensus that will be happening at Ibadan, the stakeholders meeting that will be happening at Ibadan. Do enjoy the rest of your day.